all teaching is to unlock that power that's within those kids that they didn't even know that they had. That's what makes a successful teacher, to build relationships that allow that conversation to take place. That's what my role is at the office. Anybody can pay the bills, right? Anybody can sit down, anybody can learn that. It's not hard to learn how to reconcile your checkbook to your bills and your invoices and packing list and make sure that inventory is all done. You can do that. That's easily taught. What's hard to teach is how to empower and teach other people, and how to lead people effectively. And so that's what made it the learning curve a little less steep for me in this role than other people.
Because I remember this one practice manager who basically said that, like, you should be lucky that you're here. And if you don't want to be here, there's the door. And I was like, peace. like, that's not how exactly. I don't want to work with people like that, right? Welcome back to another episode of the Exploratory Podcast, where we explore all things well-being. I am Renee Machel, your co-host and co-founder to Get MotiVETed. Today, we are interviewing Machel Shirley, an extraordinary human being, practice manager, hospital leader, CEO, karaoke extraordinaire. He has been a fantastic person for anyone to encounter. We were so lucky to have met him in the spring when Dr. Quincy Hawley moderated the Veterinary Visionaries event, and Machel was there. Since then, we were able to meet him in Kansas City, where he brought his entire team to Kansas City for the DVM 360 Fetch Conference. So we got to meet some of his team members, and it was just a cherry on top of the cake. So we are going to learn so much about his history and his practice. He's going to share with you guys about what they do at Family Pet Health that makes them unique and stand out as it relates to being a clinic that prioritizes and ultimately sees the results in so many ways of prioritizing well-being for the people, the employee first model. So we are going to learn about his history as a high school teacher and many other things. So join us and give us a warm welcome to Machel Shirley.
I like how it starts making sure everybody knows that it's being recorded.
Yeah, right.
I think that was all of those TikTok, Zoom crashing or whatever that they.
Oh, really? Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was their response to teachers that didn't know they were recording. Of course, now the kids just set their phone up over here and record the screen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So, I think that what I really like about your story and your background is that not just that you don't necessarily come from vet med, but I think that it's a real asset, your background and coming into vet med, right? Because I know as a vet professional, we've had people higher up leadership try to bring corporate, policies or procedures into vet med. And we're like, take your Starbucks knowledge elsewhere. Like, this is not Starbucks. And that's just an example. But with you tell us about your background and how it translates to vet med, because it's a huge asset. Let the people know who you are and where you come from and how you've made it into vet med, which we're super excited to have you.
All right. Guys, thank you. First, I want to thank you both for allowing me to join you on your podcast. I'm so glad that our paths have crossed. I consider it a true blessing to have met both of you. And I'm excited to talk to you about what you all are doing and how when I met you, it was like, these are my people, right?
Exactly, right?
So you asked a little bit about me. So my wife is Dr. Amy Shirley, and I'm Machel Shirley. That's it. That's just Michael Shirley. So my wife is the veterinarian, and I am not. I'm the guy that does whatever she tells me to do, like a good husband. But so our background, the way that Family Pet Health, that's our veterinary hospital. We're in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about 30 miles south of Nashville. We're in the geographic center of Tennessee, one of the fastest growing counties and cities in the nation, and has been for many years. And so that's where we are. This is where I grew up. This is born, raised here my whole life. My family was an entrepreneurial family. We own grocery stores here in town.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I started in customer service at 11 years old because 4-H came to my school. And I went home with all this stuff and like, Mom, I want to do all this. And I want to have a cow and they have horses and you can do chickens. And she's like, we live in the city. But I was able to get a horse, and that really.
You got a horse?
Yeah, I got a horse because
what kind? Like
it was a black pony. His name was Black. That was his name. And
I love it.
Yeah. So our neighborhood that we lived in backed up to a big horse farm, and so I was able to get a pony. I bought him for $1 and sold him back to the family that I bought him from for $1.50 so I could make a profit,
Wow.
Wow. But that's really what started my journey in animals. Like I loved them, and I loved everything about 4-H and what I did there. And 4-H turned for all through elementary school and middle school. My parents, the point of that story was that my mom said, you can get a horse, but you have to go to work. And because we had a family business, I started bagging groceries at 11 years old, where I had to stand on a milk crate to reach over and put stuff in the bottom of the bag. And so that's where I learned customer service. That's where I learned how to, I thrived in that position because I got to talk to people while I was bagging their groceries and have a conversation with them.
Now, what is 4-H? Is that a grocery store, or is that like a program?
Oh gosh.
It's an agriculture program.
Agricultural program. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a
Detroit.
youth,
I don't know about agriculture.
Yes. Where are you from, Renee?
Detroit, Detroit Metro. Like a
clearly
city.
Detroit.
Okay. So there are 4-H programs in inner city downtown Detroit, by the way. 4-H is a youth development program. And it's operated by the land grant universities of each state. And so it takes the research about child development, and they have extension agents that then take that research and scientific child development stuff and put it into action in the communities with those kids. So it's a citizenship leadership development program.
We got skipped.
It has its roots in agriculture, but now because everything is so diverse, there are inner city clubs. So there's more about 4-H here in just a minute in my story. But so that's what I started riding horses and working at the grocery store. I've never stopped working since 11, which is great. So 4-H in elementary school turned into middle school, and then in high school I switched to a different high school originally to pursue acting because they had an acting program, but they wouldn't let freshmen take acting. So I ended up in ag. So the school had an ag program, and I was like, well, I do 4-H, I'll do ag. And it was not animal ag, it was shop. So it was welding and metalworking and all of that.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I even in my garage right now, I still have something that I cut out of metal freehand with a cutting torch. It's still hanging in my garage today.
Oh, and that's cool, man.
Yeah. So high school FFA turned into, I want to be a veterinarian. And I went to our local university, Middle Tennessee State University, right here in Murfreesboro. And that's where my story really joins with Amy. We met at school. I was in Alpha Gamma Rho, which is an agriculture fraternity, and she was in Sigma Alpha, which is an agriculture sorority. So our paths crossed a lot, and we had one class together. She sat in front of me, and she never talked, but she was really smart. And I'm like, how did you pass this class? And I was like, this teacher makes no sense. And she goes, he literally wrote the book. Just do it his way and you'll be fine. I was like, oh, well. Anyway, she went on to become a veterinarian, and I went into education. And my first job out of school was as an animal control officer. And then when she graduated veterinary school, we started looking for her a place to work. She found a job in Murfreesboro, and started working maybe a month after we got married. We got married 2 weeks after she graduated veterinary school. And then I started looking for a real job. And my first real job was as a 4-H agent. And I sat across the table from my 4-H agent, and they asked me, why do you want this job? And I said, you're not going to believe this, but I pulled out a piece of paper it was a speech, 4-H, you do a speech. And it was a speech that I had written in the 4th grade, and I still had it. I don't keep anything. I'm not very super nostalgic, but I kept that paper and I showed it to him. And I said, do you see this? I said, this is the only thing I have from 4th grade. And I said, it's the speech that I wrote for 4-H. And I said, I just want to be able to have the impact on other people that you had on my life. And he's like tearing up. And I'm like, I got this job.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's totally yours.
So I was a 4-H agent for 8 years, and then the high school called me, and I went to teach at the local high school as an agriculture teacher, and I did that for 6 years. So this year is my first year not actually in the classroom in 16 years, and 15 years, 16 years, something like that. So during that time that I was an ag teacher, my wife came home one day and was pretty bummed out about her work situation. And it was, she worked at the same hospital for 10 years. It was her only job. She started there a month after she graduated veterinary school and worked there for 10 years and maybe took like 4 sick days besides having her children, and they basically, a very long story short, was that she decided it was time to leave. And I jumped up off the couch and I'm like, we're going to do like, I told her, like, you either have to decide that they're paying you enough money to deal with it because it's not going to change, or you need to quit. And she said, what are we going to do? We just bought our farm. I was like, it doesn't matter. This is just stuff. This does not define us. I said, but I would rather live in a 1-bedroom apartment with our kids than to see you miserable every day. Like, just leave. You're going to be fine. You're an awesome employee. People will be lucky to have you as an employee. And so she left, and she did relief work for what ended up being 3 years. But she came home one day and she said, hey, I was sitting on the couch. She goes, hey, I think I want to open my own hospital. And I was like, I jumped up off the couch, gave her a high five, and I said, you're going to do great. What do you need me to do? And she goes, I just need your help. I said, well, let's do it. And so that began our journey of family pet health. We're going to start a ground up build, but we decided to purchase a local hospital, what we call a no-low practice, something that was a fixer-upper, as they would say on TV. And so that's been 3.5 years ago. And what started out with my wife and 3 employees, we now have 3 full-time doctors, 1 doctor that works for us 1 day a week. So we're a 3.25 doctor practice. We have 14 team members, and I have finally been able to leave teaching, and I'm just the practice manager and handle all of our HR and things. So that is the story of family pet health in a nutshell. That was really long. I'm very sorry. If anybody's still listening, congratulations.
You're so funny. Of course, they're still listening, man. And that was an awesome story, dude. And so many things that resonate with me as a veterinarian who also has a wife as a veterinarian. I saw a very similar story with my wife, and so I can totally relate. So thanks for sharing all that.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really important. We kind of flew over that 6 years in high school as being a teacher. And so I want to know, and maybe it's just something that you can infuse throughout the next portion of the podcast, but, really how that has influenced your role as a hospital administrator, not just a practice manager, but the practice manager, and that HR person, the person that the employees go to, the person that the clients go to. And, I think, we've talked about it, right? It's just how you can use that experience as a high school teacher and apply it to a practice and maybe have a different outcome than other people who were raised in a practice and started out in kennels, and they just happened to escalate into, maybe not just happened, but they worked their way up to escalating to a practice manager role. And honestly, there are some people who just happen to fall into the role, right? Someone quit and they were like the the most senior employee, but they don't really have formal training in management or leadership skills. And so, tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a practice manager that recently released a book, and y'all should have her on the podcast. It's called "Oops, I Became a Manager." And so that's a very similar story to a lot of people, where it's just like, you're the most senior person here. Now you're going to be in charge of leading this team.
Yeah.
And that is scary if you haven't had formal training. So, oh man, my mind went in so many different directions when you were talking there. But what it really boils down to, and Dr. Hawley helped me come up with my actual title. He probably doesn't even know it, but we got to meet on an AHA webinar where he was interviewing us, and I told him, I said, my job is just really to empower people. And I said, maybe I should I'm the CEO, I'm the Chief Empowerment Officer. And they all kind of laughed about that. That's what's on my business cards now. So
nice.
I love it.
That sums up my job. My job
Beautiful.
is to make sure that my team has the resources that they need to be successful, and then that they believe in themselves, that they have the power to be successful. That's my job. And guess what? I trained for 15 years of my life before we started this journey of practice ownership with that job. My whole job is to work with kids, and I love it. And I love teaching. And all teaching is to unlock that power that's within those kids that they didn't even know that they had. That's what makes a successful teacher, to build relationships that allow that conversation to take place. That's what my role is at the office. Anybody can pay the bills, right? Anybody can sit down. Anybody can learn that. It's not hard to learn how to reconcile your checkbook to your bills and your invoices and packing list, and make sure that inventory is all done. You can do that. That's easily taught. What's hard to teach is how to empower and teach other people, and how to lead people effectively. And so that's what made it, the learning curve, a little less steep for me in this role than other people. I do not have, my wife and I actually met I remember the first time I saw my wife. I was working at a vet hospital, and she came around the corner. One of our clients was trying to introduce her to Dr. Harris, who I worked for, because she was trying to get Amy a job there. And I was like, oh, hello. So yes, you should hire her, Dr. Harris. But I left there, and they hired Amy to replace me. And so they leveled up. So I don't even remember where I was going with that. But my whole job, talking about my job and what I do, is to make sure that she has the work environment that she's always dreamed of, and that she has the work environment that she can thrive in. And it just so happens that if I'm creating that for her, I'm also creating that for a team of people that we believe in the same mission. We're all on the same bus, heading in the same direction, and it makes going to work not terrible. It actually makes it fun.
You mentioned something, man, about the difference between a person who merely manages people versus a true leader who empowers their team. You mentioned the B word, belief. I talk about that in every single one of my presentations. Like, do you believe it's possible to be a human and to be a veterinary professional and to have a personal and professional life of well-being for yourself? Because I really do believe that it starts there. And I imagine that some of your team members probably borrow some of your belief. You probably believe in some of them more than they believe in themselves. You know what I mean? And eventually that will overtake them, if you would. And they'll start to really buy into, wow, man, Shirley believes in me. And maybe I really can and do all these things that he believes that I can do. And that is huge, man. That is huge. So I love the empowerment part. I love not just being a person who looks at numbers and looks at the order and do we need a person here? Do we need a person there? But really he believes in that. You said something else, man, the principle of power that lies deep within every single human being, at least in my opinion. And you clearly see that. And if you can see it, then you can bring it out of a person. That's my belief. So I love all of that, man. Yeah,
there's a quote that really hit with me when I was teaching. It was a TED Talk, and everyone should pause this podcast and go watch this TED Talk. I think it's like 9 minutes long, maybe. And it's from a teacher, a lifelong educator. Her name is Rita Pearson. And the TED Talk is called Every Kid Needs a Champion. And everyone should pause this right now and go watch YouTube, watch Rita Pearson, Every Kid Needs a Champion, and replace teacher with hospital administrator, replace teacher with veterinarian, replace teacher with leader, and listen to it in that context. The quote that she has is, kids don't learn from people they don't like. Okay, because she was talking to another teacher who was like, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach the kids, and they should learn the lesson, and they should just do that because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to be their friend. And how many times have you heard people in the vet space say that, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you said, I pay them to show up and they don't thank me for this job. They're ungrateful. They always have an excuse of why they can't do the job or why they're late or why they're on the phone and blah, 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 blah. I call BS on it. Like, it is that people won't learn from a teacher they don't like. People won't work for someone. Excuse me. Let me, people won't work with someone that they don't like. And people won't work with someone that they don't think cares about them. People won't work with someone long-term if they don't think that their best interests are at the forefront of that quote unquote boss's mindset, right? That's why my wife left. She said, if they cared more about me than they did that non-compete clause, I'd still be there.
Yeah.
And I told her, thank goodness that they didn't, because look what we've done. Like, look what we've been able to create for 100%. Our team. Look what we've been able to create for our team. And if you go and interview my people, and please do, and then if I'm off base, let me know. But I think that you'll find that our team at Family Pet Health would say that they believe that Dr. Shirley and I care about them as an individual. Mm-hmm. That is straight from the classroom, because I know that kids would never listen to me if they didn't like me. It starts with relationships. And Miss Pearson's talk is all about relationships. That's where it starts. In education, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Yep. The bottom one is that, that their basic needs, food, water, shelter, are there. The number 2 one is safety. And then you get into belonging, right? And caring, like to be able to thrive. The very top is self-actualization, which is what every boss or owner or manager wants. I want them just to do the right thing when I'm not around. Yeah, me too. But you got to build up to that. You got to build up to that. And it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. But it's fun, and it actually makes your job more enjoyable.
And it's effective too.
Yeah. And
it's not easy, but it's effective.
And you show up as your best self. And so it changes your experience, right? Because if you're the person, whatever role that is, coming into any relationship, and you're spitting that out, obviously you're frustrated. You're in a state of anger, frustration, resentment, understanding, whatever, but you're coming at it, and that's your experience. And so if we're looking to change our experience in life, then we have to have these notions about how we're consciously bringing our own reality about. I spent 11 years in my first vet practice, and that was why. Was because even though I made crap for money for a really long time, they cared about me as a human first. And when I came to North Carolina, that was really hard to find. And I did leave practices because I remember this one practice manager who basically said that, like, you should be lucky that you're here. And if you don't want to be here, there's the door. And I was like, peace. Like, that's not how exactly. I don't want to work with people like that. Right. And because it also translates to patient care too, right? Because that's Absolutely. The same mentality that they're treating. Now they're looking at the animals as numbers rather than as individuals. And again, as leaders, for someone who's been a team lead, there is a difference between just distilling what to do. Like, as a leader, I'm not just a fountain or a filter that's delegating tasks. We're wanting to coach people and empower people, right, to where they develop and reach their potential so that they can go on to whatever that next chapter is, whether it's staying there and innovating the practice or going off and doing something else, rather than dampening them down, oppressing them, just so that they can be, a robot and complete tasks, And I'll close on this note is when you mentioned belonging, this is the heart of Get MotiVETed. I wasn't finding true belonging in North Carolina. It was a really big shoe to fill. And even in Michigan, while I felt like I belonged in my practice, I didn't feel like I belonged in the world. And so that was a deeper layer to my struggle that I wasn't even aware of at the time. And so my favorite TED Talk was one from Brene Brown. And she's a researcher. I'm sure you know who she is. And she has books and talks, and she speaks and trains in the necessity to foster relationships and true belonging. Create these cultures where people do feel safe safe enough to be vulnerable and transparent to facilitate innovation and change, right? When we think of vet med and we think of the military and we think of really our homes, many people were raised on that shame and humiliation of, you got the answer wrong. I can't believe you asked this question. That's a stupid question. Like you said, when you're working with people like that, people get really small and they hermit in, and we don't learn, we don't grow, we don't share. And by not sharing, we can't grow. We can't connect to other people. So we put on these masks and these personas, and then we wonder why, we're going to bed at night and we don't know who we are. Our identities are wrapped up in our, what pays the bills rather than who we are as, Renee. There's so much of a domino effect that can come from this. And it's through conversations like this that I think that we provide people with just tiny little seeds that they can further explore and go, oh, and catch on to. And then it just is the catalyst to change their entire life and their careers.
I agree 100%. And I was thinking about, I'm sure we'll probably talk about it later, but we created a Facebook group called the Veterinary Leadership Book Club. And so it started in January of 2020. Anybody should, if you're on Facebook, check it out. But we're on our 7th book right now. And I was thinking, as you were talking, I was like, oh yes, that's covered in The Power of a Positive Team. The culture code. The 5 dysfunctions of a team. There's so many lessons that we've learned through these books this past year that I've been able to put into practice like as soon as I read them. And so I would encourage people to check those out, and they can use the search feature in that group to go back and read each one of those books week by week and see the discussion questions that come. And all of our discussion prompts are related to veterinary medicine. But when you were talking about the military and things like that, I was thinking of the book called The Culture Code. And that's what everybody wants it, right? Everybody talks about, oh, we have a great culture, or I want to improve my culture and all that. What they're saying is, I want to work with the people that I work with every day. I want to do it in a better way. I want to do it in a more meaningful way, in a more inclusive way. I want us to hit this in a stronger way. So if you're feeling that way, then you can do it. Like, you can do it. Even no matter what your role is in your hospital, you have the power to affect change in your hospital. You do not have to have the title of manager or leader. It does not matter. Somebody is following you. You are leading someone in your veterinary hospital, and that's all it takes. It starts with you, and then from there you can affect change to other people. And if you are finding that you are just hitting it over and over again, you're hitting the wall, you're banging your head against the wall, then this is Machel Shirley giving you permission to leave. Right? You've given it a good effort, and you're trying to make it better. You're trying to affect positive change, and it's not happening. Leave and go somewhere else, because I don't know if anybody noticed this or not, but the veterinary job market's pretty hot right now. So you can find another job.
Absolutely.
And when you sit down to interview, Those are the types of questions that you need to be asking. Tell me about your culture here. How long, when did the last person leave? And how long had they been here? Ask them that question. Ask them about their mentorship programs. Ask them about their team building. How do they give me examples of how you build your team up daily, weekly, monthly. What are your long-term team's goals? And then when you're doing your working interview, ask the people that work there if they know what the mission of the vet practice is. And if they can't tell it to you, then that's a red flag that it's not really what it is. Like that they're not as culture positive maybe as they've made it out to be. Everybody's going to practice good medicine. I've never been to a vet hospital where they're like, we're here to make as much money as fast as we can and damn patient care. Nobody says that. We're all in it to take care of the pets, right? So you can be a little bit more selective right now and find the environment where you're going to thrive. So do that. This is me giving you permission.
Yeah, I love it. Those questions, I'm going to put a lot of this in the show notes, you guys. So that's fantastic. And those questions people need to know, right? Because I think that's too, we've just been repeating the process for so long. When you're interviewing, whether you're whatever side of the table you're sitting on, we're asking the wrong questions and we're relaying the wrong information. And, we're preparing for a conference coming up. And that is actually one of our questions to the audience, which is, does your team know your mission statement if you have one? So does your hospital have a mission statement or vision statement? And if so, does your team know about it? Because it does make a really big difference.
We have a weekly team meeting. We shut the office down weekly for a team meeting. And people, when I tell them that, they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I could never do that. But I can't afford not to do that because we are, as I shared with you all before we started recording, we're building a new hospital. We currently have 3 exam rooms. Really, it's 2. We converted our detached garage into another workspace. So let's call it 3 exam rooms with 3 full-time doctors, 15 employees or 14 team members. We're building a hospital with 10 exam rooms, right? A 7,000 square foot hospital. We're currently in 1,700 square feet. Okay. I have to have team meetings because we have a lot of change going on, really. And we are talking about the only way we can make this move is if we fix these issues that we have. Okay. So we're talking every week, but we are on a 4-week rotation. We talk medical. We do some medical learning, education. We have we've hired new people. Like we haven't had people quit. We're growing. And anybody out there wants a job, give me a call. Family Pet Health, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So immediate opening for licensed veterinary technician. Okay, so we have a medical knowledge meeting. Then we have departmental meetings. We have a personal development meeting, and then we have a fun meeting, and then we start over. We're on a 4-week rotation. Okay. And so we have our reps come in and teach some of that medical stuff. We also have our team members teach it because you'll never learn like you're going to learn when you have to teach your teammates something. Okay. I learned that teaching. I was way more prepared when I actually had to teach other people stuff. Okay. But we have reps do it. We have doctors do it. We have our kennel staff do it, facilities. I'll teach some stuff. That personal development is all the things. I hate it when people say, owners and managers say they need to check all that. They need to check their personal lives at the door when they get here. Are you kidding me? Like, can you ever really separate yourself from the things that are going on in life? No, your kids are sick. Your husband is mad at you. Your wife is mad at you. Your dog is sick. Your cows are out, whatever. Everybody's got personal stuff going on at home. They absolutely bring it with them to work, right? So we try to teach people how to effectively and positively deal with the stresses of normal life and as well as veterinary life, because that's pretty stressful too. How can we deal with all this external stimulus to ourselves in a positive way? We can't necessarily change what's affecting us, but we are totally in control of how we're going to respond to it. And what I have found from teaching is that teenagers, believe it or not, don't do that very well. so their boyfriend's broken up with them, their whole wreck, they're dying, and their school work goes down and all that happens. So I had a lot of those conversations where I just listened, because to them, that is the most important thing going on in their life. You never want to say, well, Renee, at least it's not this, or, oh, you'll get better. It'll be okay. not when you're living in it right then. What you need somebody, I think, and Brene Brown does this, right? The sympathy versus empathy, right? Like the person in the pit, you're going to get down in there with them and just sit with them. That's really hard for me to do, by the way, because I'm a fixer. I want to fix things, but sometimes my wife just needs me to sit there and look at her and listen to her, hold her hand. And sometimes I need that from my wife too, right? And our team needs that from us. So you have to, my point to that is that a lot of our veterinary professionals have not been taught things like money management. They haven't been taught things about retirement planning. They haven't been taught about parenting. Like, I didn't get an instruction book with my children. I needed some help. So maybe sometimes if I'm checking in with my team and I'm finding out that a lot of people are having a problem with a certain area, maybe I'm going to bring in a professional from outside of our industry to lead a talk about parenting. And even though not everybody on my team has parents, you can apply those things to other areas of your life. So at any rate, my whole point to that is that you got to invest in your team. We have a weekly meeting where we are specifically trying to make our team better, because if I take care of my people, they'll be better equipped to take care of my clients and their pets. That's the secret to veterinary success right there, right? So,
dude, I'm loving this so much. Let me tell you why. I'm loving this conversation.
He's speaking our language.
And hearing Machel talk. Well, normally it's me and it's Renee, and we're talking to an audience of people, or we're talking to these microphones and these cameras, right? And I'm not saying anything right now, but I feel like I'm hearing myself talk. And I feel like it's so important for people to hear the same message from different people who barely know each other, who are getting similar results with similar strategies, not necessarily the tools, right? Because the tools can change from time to time, but the strategy, something like personal development, just as an overall thing, can make such a big difference in your life and also the lives of the people around you. Because anyone who's invested in their own personal development has most certainly gotten results. And if you got results, you're going to want to share that with other people. Yes. Like for me and for Renee, we can't not be well-being enthusiasts and speakers and course creators. It's impossible. It'd be selfish. It'd be like having a cure of cancer and just putting it in my pocket and walking around with it all day. And I'm sure you've done your own personal development and you just really want to share that with the people around you so that they can, ethically get their way in life and in veterinary medicine, man. So just kudos to you. And I'm happy for your team members. I'm happy for your future team members. I know people are going to come your way. That registered technician that you're looking for, they're coming, man. It's around the corner. But people, this isn't Dr. Hawley talking. This is Renee speaking on this podcast. This is Machel, Shirley. I think Renee just met him. I met him a few months back, and
you didn't coach him what to say.
We didn't coach him what to say. It's legit, and I just love hearing it come from someone who is in the practice manager role and in a leadership role of a hospital, because I am not. And you've applied this stuff. You're a practitioner of it, and you're seeing the results. I mean, we don't have to talk about the bottom line. The ethical and moral results, right? The smiles on people's faces, the culture, the belonging, all of that is the result, right? And if you're seeing that, then this stuff is legit. I know it is.
Can I tell you who did the wedding, my wedding? I thought I had his picture around here. Oh, there it is. I had to clear it off my desk, but you can't, people at home can't see this, but there's us on our wedding day right there, right? Look how young we are. Okay. But that guy that's over there that did our wedding, that's Dr. Harris. That's that veterinarian that we both worked for. Okay. So both of us, like he meant so much to both of us, and he took care of us as employees, but he also invested in us personally. And that made a very big impact, to the point that we wanted him to do our wedding. I want one day for the people that spend some time at Family Pet Health, that they come back later, or maybe they won't ask me to do their wedding, but maybe, but at least they'll say, for that season of my life when I was at Family Pet Health, I learned these lessons from you, and I was able to take them out and this is what you've done. Teaching, when I was a teacher, you never know how you always wonder about those kids. Like, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? Whatever happened to so-and-so, whatever happened to that kid? I wonder how they turned out. And it's a long, long payoff to see if what you did had any positive effect or not. And I'm starting to see that now, where I'm seeing my students have their own families and be successful. And that's what builds me up the most. I have a note here on my phone. It's called All I Needed to Know About Owning a Vet Hospital I Learned Teaching High School. It's my 10 things right here. And number one says, my first priority is to my students and team's growth. And number two is, my greatest joys are when my students or team are successful. Like, I want to make money. It's a business, right? But even more than that, personally, is that I want to see the people that work on team, family, pet health to be successful in their lives. And so my job is to create that type of environment. And I'm so thankful to meet people like you. This is the book we're reading right now at the Veterinary Leadership Book Club. It's called Change Your World by John Maxwell. And the chapter is called We All Need One Another. And it says team stands for team. Together, everyone accomplishes more. And this book is about, if you see a problem in the world and you want to fix it, you have to start with yourself. And then it says, find other people out there that believe in the same thing you believe in, the same result. Maybe how we're going to get there is different, right, but the result is the same. And that's why I'm really glad to have met people like you all, and Josh Weissman and Phil Richmond. Those are all people that I didn't know existed a year ago, where I thought I was on this little island, like, oh, everybody told us we're crazy. Like, y'all are, it sounds good, but how are you going to do it with a hospital of 50 people? I don't know. We're not there yet, but we're heading in that direction. You know, 3 years ago, we had 4 people and now we have 14 people. Yes. So we're heading in that direction, and we're going to figure this out. We can do it, but I'm so glad to meet people like you that also believe in that. And we're building, like, I now feel like I'm a part of a movement in veterinary medicine that's gaining traction with people like y'all, and the Mentor Vet program, and all these different consultants that start with positive psychology and positive team culture in vet med. And now it's giving me energy that I didn't even know I needed. Like, I'm pretty intense anyway, but it's building me up. Like, I just want to hang out with you. I told Quincy the first time I met you, I told my wife, I said, I feel like I just want to be his best friend. So, yeah. And it's because we're like, yeah, we're seeing the same things. And I want to share with you all our success, but I also want to share with you all our failures to help prevent other people from having them. And maybe we can all get there faster. Because it can happen. I know it can happen. I know it's going to happen, that positive work environments in vet med can sustain lifelong careers as practitioners and make money. It can do. I'm confident it can happen, and I feel like now I'm part of a movement that is going to help that.
We're counting on you to make money, man.
Yeah.
We're counting on you, dude.
I mean, and you guys are, right? Because you guys are growing.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, otherwise you wouldn't be growing. So I think that is definitely, a natural byproduct, right? And we talk about that. Jaylyn, our practice manager who believed in Get MotiVETed, she had said, when you put the well-being first, organically, you're going to see a difference in the bottom line. And so it's going to happen. There's tons of research around it. Veterinary Visionaries, where we met, we're doing a lot of work around making that case and solving these problems. But, I think we've answered so beautifully a lot of the questions that we had planned in just this conversation, and it's so perfect. But I want to pull out a couple of things that you said. And one, and I'll kind of work backwards, is that you talked about generating energy, right? And so when we're looking at people who are waking up and they're just dragging ass day in and day out, I think we tend to get this artificial energy, right? We push ourselves from caffeine, or, we chalk it up to something else. We kind of misdiagnose ourselves. But to understand that we can generate energy, and that when you find your people, and when you share your story, and when you seek out solutions, that you can actually generate this, more energy. And so I think that's fantastic. The other things are, one, you had mentioned fix it or sit with it. And I think that as people become more personally developed, when you're on the other side of that, you can start to ask for what you need, right? You don't just assume that the person's going to know what you need. And so now, just like you said with your wife, that sometimes you need something and sometimes you need the other thing. And so what I'll do, if I, at my best, is I'll ask, I say, don't try to fix this. This is rhetorical, I just need you to be here with it. And then if we need to have a brainstorm session, it's like, okay, I need more opinions. And that's when I let Neil know, or I call Quincy and I call Jay. I said, this is what we're doing today. Right. And then that's where the fixing comes in. But you start to know what you actually need in that moment, and who to go to for those different times. Maybe your mom, like mine, she's not great at solving problems, but she's a fantastic person just to, be with you in that moment. Now, when we think of vet professionals, maybe whatever role you're in, let's say you're floundering, you've made it, oops, I'm a PM, and you're just in the survival mode. When we think about all of the practices across the United States and across the globe who might be in this state of just treading water, like we're just trying to survive day to day. Are there any things that you would recommend to people to really hit that into high gear, to prioritize their own well-being and their team's well-being? Or if they're trying to infuse this culture of positive well-being, what sort of metrics or trackers could they use that would indicate whether or not the team is, buying in, making some changes, things like that?
I think regular check-ins with your team individually is paramount to that success. So if you want to know what's causing your team stress and see if you can identify why they might be floundering, the only way to do that is to meet with them individually and try to find out what's causing them stress. I poll our team regularly, so I'll send out a Google form and ask them to please complete it. Sometimes I'll do it at the beginning of one of our team meetings. 3 questions. What was your biggest success this week? So you get to write that down. What was your biggest challenge? And then what's the thing that's causing you the most stress in your job right now? Right now, 100%, they all say space. I don't have any space. I don't have no space. I'm like, well, we're trying to fix that. So, but it has been times where they've written some really, because they trust me to keep that between us, that they've shared some really big things that I had no idea that they were dealing with. And so they trusted me enough to talk to me about those things. And a lot of them were way beyond my scope of being able to help. But I'm really well connected with the people. Like, I know how to find resources in our community to help them. So I've made introductions to different professionals that can help them with that. Again, that helps them. It also builds more trust and greater strength. So that's one thing. As far as metrics go, you should be looking at, call outs and things like that, just because and then address those issues when you see them, identify it, name it, and then discuss it and talk about it. So we at our office, we talk about that a lot. It's like, if somebody is causing you stress, number one, they may not even know that they're doing something that's bothering you. So assume noble intent. I heard David List say that on a podcast once. I liked it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna take that. So assume noble intent with our teammates. Go and talk to them. And if that doesn't get resolution, then bring me into it, and we'll have a private conversation there. So creating an environment where team members hold each other accountable is very important. So if you're having a problem with gossiping in your office and stuff like that, that's not something you're probably going to fix by yourself. That has to be a team buy-in. And so we identify it, we name it, and we discuss it. We talk about the negative effects of complaining or venting to people that don't have the power to change it. So that's called gossiping. That's what gossiping is.
I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that was right from the beginning that we did that in our office. And when I find out about it, I'll go talk to people. I'm like, hey, I heard that you were talking about this. Let's first off, let's talk about it. And then, remind you of our core values. that's not in line with them. So if you have a problem, you need to talk with the person that can change it, and bring solutions when you come. So that's another thing that people need to make sure is that they let their team be a part of those decisions. That was another lesson from the classroom, right?
Yep.
If I was able to structure things that made my students feel that it was their idea, even though it might have been my idea, but I guide them in the way that I want them to go. And then all of a sudden they come up with the idea. I'm like, that's a great idea. That's what I already had written down over here.
That's the art of persuasion, art of sales, man. Honestly,
that was,
and
oh, sorry. That was like an early lesson for me, for my leaders, was that you don't be a problem spotter, be a problem solver. And I felt like a salesperson sometimes in my early days when I would bring a problem, but I had to have this little pitch deck of like solutions.
Yeah.
My son, I'll tell you, my oldest son is 20 years old, and he was so frustrated because he would always, if he had a problem, I can't do it. What did you try? Nothing. I tried this one thing. I was like, so he had to tell me before he came to me for help. And this is what I did in my classroom too. Before they could come to me for help, they had to have tried 3 different things that didn't work. And then they had to tell me what didn't work and why they thought it didn't work. And then we would talk about a solution.
Yes.
So that's the same thing at the office too. I empower our team to bring solutions, and we try them out. And if they don't work, we're quick to scrap them and we try something else. So we debrief when we talk about it as a team as to why that didn't work and what our problems are, and see if anybody's got solutions. I do not have all the answers, and I'm quick to let them know that.
But I think that the personal development in all of those those team meetings and the books that you're reading and the energy that you bring and just the principles that you live and operate by within that hospital, the mission statement, that helps people to be better at being able to solve problems. You know what I mean? I think that through a lot of the books and a lot of the YouTube videos and audiobooks that I've read and listened to, and the mentors and the conversations that we've had with other people who embody well-being and personal development, that you just become so capable of finding solutions. And if you can't find one and you're completely defeated, then you find a way to grow from that. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to get better instead of bitter from this thing. Now, Michael, before we jump into our game here, I want to ask you one last question from me. And that is, and your answer better be good, but, but how optimistic are you for the veterinary community, for the veterinary profession, just in general, as it relates to the well-being and just the progression of the profession? Optimistic or pessimistic? Where are you? I
am an opportunistic, I guess, a possibilist. That's what I'd like to say. I'm a possibilist.
I like it.
I think that there's so much that's still possible in vet space, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I don't have time for people that are going to just be Debbie Downers all the time. Like, you need some complainers on your team. I like complainers, because complainers identify a problem and they don't like it, and they tell you about it. I love those people. But as far as our industry as a whole, there are some concerns that I have. I am concerned that that we are going to see a greater divide in pet care for the people that can afford it and the people that can't. We talk about that at our office, and we have a low-cost spay-neuter clinic right down the street from us, and they just started doing wellness exams and stuff, which first didn't really sit right with me, because they have like a multi-million-dollar endowment that they can use to subsidize stuff. And I'm like, well, of course they can offer shots for, $1. But rather than complain about it, I realized one of our doctors is on the board of directors there, and I give her as much time as she needs to go down there and serve, because that is serving a need in our community.
Yes.
that I think is only going to become greater. Just because someone doesn't have any money doesn't mean that they don't care about their pets. In fact, I would say some people that have no money care the most about their pets, because that's the only thing they have in their life that brings them joy. And they would do anything to take care of that pet, but they can't because they don't have any money. That bothers me, and it makes me sad. But I don't know how to fix it yet, but I'm open to those ideas if anybody out there has some of those, because we are running a business, and I want to pay my team very well. I want to have nice things. I want to be in a building that is equal to the quality of medicine that our team provides. Right now, we are not like we're in an old 1960 ranch style house that's been converted into a vet clinic. It's not ideal, but we do a good job with it. But I want to build something that's reflective of the quality of medicine, but it's expensive. It's going to take money. So we got to make money. So I'm worried about that a little bit. As far as the opportunity, like licensed veterinary technicians, we're all about empowering them to allow them to use the training that they've gone to, and that like, you have the credentials, now we're going to let you use it. And I think that's only going to grow. That's one nice thing I think about having corporate more in the workspace. I think that we're actually going to start seeing some push behind the licensed technicians to give them compensation and recognition for what they've accomplished. I want to pay my doctors well. I want to pay all our team livable wages, and that's going to cost. I'm going to have to raise prices. And so again, it goes back to that problem that I see. But as far as what they can do, the technicians and stuff, I think we're going to see the equivalent of the nurse practitioner one day. I think it's coming. We got to figure out, but we're still really far away because our industry still fights with each other a lot of it. We can't even call them all the same thing across the United States. We have LVTs and LVMTs and RVTs and all this. So, but I like that idea. And I think we're seeing more, the human animal bond is just getting stronger. And I think that's going to be good for our place. And the thing that I'm most excited about is realizing that there are other people out there, like we said, that are on that same tribe of positive work culture, trying to create a system that ensures that people can make this a career instead of just something that they do for 3 or 4 years, get burned out and leave. So,
I love that too, man. And the profession definitely has got its challenges, right? There's a handful of them, from diversity, equity, inclusion, or the lack of the mental health and well-being challenges. But the thing that makes me optimistic, Machel, Shirley, man, is that we've got people like you out there who are really believing in their teams and making some very progressive moves and changes that are really going to push the profession forward. We have no idea with this, even this podcast episode. So a practice manager could hear this, or a team member or a hospital owner could hear this and be like, you know what? I want to give that a shot. And it may be challenging at first, but if they dive in and if they listen to more podcasts and read the books and join the book club and just start to have that intention, I can just imagine every hospital. I know that's maybe a little bit unrealistic, but I can imagine every hospital having a leader like a Machel Shirley, right? Or a lot like a Josh Weissman, or all of the other progressive leaders. Someday that will be the case. Where it's the majority.
You know why?
Why is that?
Because where would you rather work?
Because at some point it's going to have to be, right? People aren't going to work the other place.
Right. And money is only a motivator up to a certain point. Like, you got to enjoy what you do. I love teaching,
for sure.
But teaching is seeing an exodus, just like veterinary medicine, where you're like, where you talk to teaching professionals, like, I didn't get into this to do all of these XYZ testing, blah, 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 reporting and all that. I wanted to work with kids. I wanted to work with kids. And if anybody out there has a retired teacher that walks into your vet hospital and says they want to work, you find them a job, because they can do it, whatever it is. So, but at any rate, why is that going to happen? I think it's possible, Quincy. It's possible that every hospital is going to be a positive place to work. Why? Because that's where I would want to work. And if you can't find, there's a lot of people out there that have not been able to find a veterinarian for 2, 3, 4 years. We had one that just called us and said, hey, if y'all decide to hire, I'd like to work for you. What? Is this a joke? So, and Dr. Sam started with us in July, the day after we started working on our job announcement.
And we've got to, like you mentioned earlier, like, as individuals, you have to be willing to stand up and walk away so that they get the flippin' message.
And if they don't, if that's what it takes for veterinary hospitals to finally get on board, then that's what it's going to take. And so the ones that invest in their people are going to continue to grow and not have as hard of a time as finding employees and team members. And the hospitals that just that have that mentality of, I'm paying them to show up to work, they should show up, they should do their job, and they should be happy. Yep. Those people are going to continue to struggle to find help, because the demand for our services is not going down. We are not producing enough veterinary professionals to meet demand. So where are you going to want to work? People, have you ever been to Chick-fil-A? Right? The car lines are wrapped around the building. They're down the street. And you're like, it's just a chicken sandwich, right? But like, give me a break. Go to Popeyes. It's better. Maybe even the spicy chicken sandwich at Popeyes is better than Chick-fil-A. But anyway, but where does my family always want to go? Chick-fil-A, because they have a good experience, and the people that are there look like they're happy, and they are getting paid better than other fast food restaurants, and they're closed on one day a week, which is unheard of in fast food. My office is closed on the weekends. We don't see on-call or emergencies, because I want to create the type of environment where I want to work. So hospitals that do that are going to continue to find help. So Chick-fil-A has never had problem hiring people. They have a waiting list to work there, at least at our local one. It's because they take care of their team, and customers are happy when they come there, and that makes the team happier. It's an environment for all people that experience it, that's enjoyable for the most part. Yeah. And that's what I think is possible in our veterinary spaces. And those hospitals that are resistant to it, you're going to reap what you sow.
I can barely contain myself. I can barely contain myself because you just brought us to the next home run, which is now the pet parents. And we know, like you said, the human animal bond is getting stronger. The pet parents these days, they are humanizing their animals. And so we are becoming the pediatricians. And so that has been my silent goal for Get MotiVETed. It's sort of this back burner, like one day when we can master what we're doing now, we go into the pet parent space, because again, customers, clients, pet parents, they are going to recognize all of that. And they will choose where to bring their pets. And if they can afford it, they'll pay an extra $1 for the vaccine because of that experience, just like that Chick-fil-A. They'll drive the extra mile, and so all of the dinosaurs out there who are barking orders and, thinking that this way has to be the only way. Well, we have to be open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we have to see every pyometra and do every cruciate ligament surgery. And you have to work 77 hours of overtime. It's not going to happen, because the pet parents are going to be like, dude, I'm not going back because that chick was on her last leg. This one was frazzled. I don't like the experience.
People screaming in the background, the doctors yelling at their support staff in front of the clients, which happens.
Right. Or they don't even know what to put their finger on. They're just like, that felt weird. F that. And so then they don't come back. So I think we're going to see that too, where the pet parents, and this is where I want to challenge vet practices to start that mission statement, vision statement process with their team, but share it with their clientele. If your clients know your vision, your mission, and your core values, then that's going to create a unity and loyalty that is unprecedented. And so I think the four rotation meeting, I think, is the best place for people to start. That really stood out for me when we talked in Kansas, was that, because what good is it going to do you to know about the latest and greatest product if you're not well enough to come in, or you don't have the money to put gas in your car, right? Or even maybe get a new car, whatever. So it doesn't help me to be able to spit back, that new product if I can't come into work. And so, and when we think about practices who only have monthly meetings, that's only 12 meetings a year. And most of those practices kind of skip the last 2 or 7. We've talked to some practices who are like, since COVID, we haven't been able to meet. And we're like, ugh.
We split our team into COVID at the very beginning, and we still did our meetings together. We did them via Zoom, and it was so much fun. Like, because we missed each other. That's what they're like. Oh, I miss you, and I'm like, I miss y'all too. Like, that was very affirming for me that we were on the right track. it was fun. Our team, we went, you met them at Kansas City. We shut down our office and took everybody to fetch. I hope that we can do that forever. I don't see why not. If we plan it, if we plan ahead, we should be able to afford that in the future. But it was a fun team. Like, they worked all week together. They went on a trip across the country, and we all stayed in one Airbnb house together. And then we flew back to Nashville, and we all showed up to work the next day. And poor Zoe worked like basically 2 weeks without a day off. And I'm like, you need to go home. It's just like, okay.
But their energies were all so high. They had a lot of energy. So when we're talking about that energy, things really feel different if you're coming at it like, if you love what you do, right?
That's
like
right.
the time
and
flies.
the people that you work with. Yeah. And the people that you work with.
And the place that you work, right?
That's right. All
that makes a huge difference.
So we say, if you take care of the people, they'll take care of the pets, and that'll take care of the business.
Boom.
And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that's it. I believe it. And like you said, the easiest way, the takeaway to put in your practice tomorrow is to meet with your team individually and just say, how are you? How are you doing?
Yeah. Awesome.
And start to get to know them. Work in that weekly team meeting. I don't know how you meet any less than that. Although, if you don't have anything to meet about, don't meet. Nothing's worse than going to a meeting without a purpose. And then just go on to it together. Do it together.
Yes. And then make sure you're doing your own personal development as well, so you can do an even better job at the meetings, right? Okay, let's play a game. That's Renee says. He's just trying to reel us in here. I'm having so much fun.
I feel really bad for your editor. I'm sorry.
I'm the editor, but
I'm the editor.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So here we go.
There's no editing. Just so that you know, there's no editing. I might edit the first part a little bit, but all of this is going to the podcast.
Oh gosh.
That's right. Okay. If you could bring back one famous person from the dead, who would you pick?
Oh my goodness. Oh man. I'm going to be a nerd and say George Washington.
George Washington? Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Why is that? Any particular reason?
I'm really into politics. Like I'm elected to our local road board, and I want to know, like, I really want to know about what they were really thinking at the beginning, because like they were like younger than us. the quote unquote founding fathers, right? Like, I'm like, they founded a country and they were in their 30s and 40s. I'm like,
wow,
done with my life.
Right.
So I just want to talk to them and really know, like, is this really what, like, but I would want to be able to show them a little bit of what's going on today and say, what do you think about this? So, but from what I've seen, like, George Washington was a good leader, and I would just like to talk to him about leadership with the military and in that, like, how depressing all of that would be in like to be fighting all of those wars for so many years, and how do you keep people motivated in times like that? And then, oh, by the way, we created this country, and I'm like, what lessons could I learn from him about creating a business? So,
right. Have you seen Hamilton? Have you seen Hamilton?
My kids love it. Yeah, they sing. Yeah, it's a good. I'll that. Yep.
My wife loves Hamilton. Anyway, next question. Let's see here. How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant?
What are they armed with?
Oh, beaks and claws and feathers.
I think it would take. I think about 100 chickens could do it.
But
if they're roosters.
Oh, okay. So they gotta be roosters. Okay. All right.
They got their spurs. Have you ever been attacked by a rooster?
Yeah, his was weird.
I have a story. I'm not gonna tell it here.
One time he wouldn't let me get out of the car.
You got attacked by a rooster too?
No, you told me not to get out of the car because your rooster was out front.
Oh, my rooster. Yeah. Yes.
I think 100 roosters could do it.
Yeah, they could at least intimidate the elephant, make him run off a cliff, right?
That's right.
Make him run off a cliff into the street and get hit by a transfer truck. Okay, so if humans came with a warning label, what would yours say? A warning label. What would your warning label say? Uh-oh, folks, here it comes.
The chaos monkey is in charge. have you seen, there's another TED talk that's like the successful procrastinator or something, like so it's like, I'm a procrastinator. So the only thing that really gets me, so there's like a rational human inside of me that's in charge, but there's also the chaos monkey, instant gratification monkey. I think that's what it's called, the instant gratification monkey. So he's always he's really in charge of my life until the panic monster shows up, which then that's the only thing that the instant gratification monkey is afraid of. So he runs away. And then when the panic monster is there, then the rational human takes back over. So like, I never wrote any of my college papers until like the night before they were due, but they were always pretty good. But
same here, man. Same here.
That would definitely be my warning label, is that the instant gratification monkey is really in charge of me most of the time.
I hope somebody accidentally fast forwards to the end of this podcast and just comes in at panic monkey, instant gratification monkey. They're gonna be like, what is this podcast about? Right? Oh my goodness. Well, Machel, thanks for your time, man. Thanks for sharing all of these gems and your knowledge about leadership and what you're learning and earning through your personal development and believing in your team. And huge shout out to the Family Pet, say it for me?
Family Pet Health.
Huge shout out to the Family Pet Health team and all that you all are doing. And I certainly wish you all the best as you move forward.
Well, Renee and Dr. Hawley, thank you all so much. I've really just had a fun time talking with y'all, and I'm glad that our paths crossed and that we got to meet, and I look forward to meeting and working with y'all in the future.
Same. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you.
Yes, Michael. And we'll catch you on the next episode. That's right.